up, beautiful creators? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is the first video of a series that I am starting because I am on a hunt for my own lens set. As I'm traveling a lot more as a DP as well as an indie filmmaker, I feel like it's only right to kind of have my own gear for the times where I'm doing these smaller projects and I actually can't rent out gear. And it's also just nice for me and the type of work that I do, doing behind the scenes on feature films and different things like that, to just have my own lens set. And so with that, I wanted to start this series where I'm going to be giving my first impressions as well as my thoughts on different lens sets that I can get a hold of. I actually have a criteria. One is going to be adaptability. I have different cameras with different camera companies, different sensors, as well as different mounts. So how adaptable is this cinema lens set going to be with whatever camera I decide to use for a particular project? Two is of course going to be the characteristics. Like I want to know, can these lenses work on the multitude of different projects that I actually am going to have, whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's documentary, whether it's just social media content. And number three is going to be size. As a travel filmmaker, size is going to be important. I don't want anything that's going to be overly heavy. I don't want anything that's going to break my back. And so size and weight and just overall aesthetics matter to me. So with that, let's get into it. Now, the first lens set that I want to talk about is the Thypoch lenses. I don't know if it's Thypoch or Thypoch. I don't know if it's Simera-C or Simera. So I'm going to say it the way I want to say it. And if it's wrong, now, these come in a 21, a 28, a 35, a 50, and a 75. Now, the only thing that I wish that they had was something like a 135, just a longer focal length, because 75 sometimes isn't enough. But other than that, this is like a pretty good variety of focal lengths. The 21 and the 28 are golden, of course the nifty 50, and I use a 35 all the time. I even have a DZO 35mm Vespit, and that's the only one that I have because it's just one of those focal lengths that just works for every single thing. So first, let's get into the size. This is a 35mm Thypoch lens, super tiny. And even their 75mm, which is this one, it's a little bigger, but it's still not that much bigger. But when you put this 35 with the 35 DZO, because I do own a 35 DZO, you can see how much bigger it actually is. This like knocks a lot of weight out of your hand. These can get pretty heavy, so think about having a full lens set and what that can feel like. It may not matter to a lot of y'all because I think my audience is mostly men, but for petite women and just wanting to have lighter lenses, the Thypoch clearly wins in that category. Number two is going to be what we all love to talk about, and that's the characteristics of the lens. Now, lately, I've been trying my best to really not put any pro mist filters or black satin filters or any kind of filters in front of my lenses because I want to utilize the characteristics of the lens. That's why we purchase specific type of lenses, because we want to be able to use their characteristics. When you go into vintage lenses or when you go into like these actual cinema lenses that DPs are renting, they're renting these $1,000 lenses because there are certain characteristics and mechanisms within the lens that they really, really like. That really adds to their story. And so what I really liked about the Thypoch lenses were the characteristics is supposed to be like this vintage feel. I've shot doc interviews with this. I've shot social content with this. I've shot like as much as I can with these lenses just to see how versatile it could be. It is clean, but it's vintage. And normally when you think vintage or you think about these super speeds and, you know, these older Canon FD lenses, is the whole point was the imperfections that came from the lenses that were so beautiful and added to the story. So it does give you a little bit more clean aspect when it comes to that, but it is still more vintage when it comes to like more of this faded, not too contrasty type of look. So a couple of things I noticed working with the Pixis and the FX3 was the highlight roll off on the Pixis is so much better and really works well with the look of these lenses and bringing out more of the character of these lenses. On both cameras, you have this really nice soft feel with skin tones more on the warmer side, and it really softened up the Sony FX3 because I didn't have any diffusion, and it doesn't feel as sharp as the Sony FX3 usually is when you're using like G Masters or things like that. And with the Pixis, you can see more of the vintage feel with the spill from the light coming from outside and the overall look being less contrast because of the beautiful Pixis sensor. And to me, it's a testament that the lens and camera combination is equally as important as the lens and camera individually. So does these lenses have character? Yes, but it really depends on the type of camera that you're going to use, on how much character that these lenses are going to bring out. And I think a thing that was really striking to me, and this may be just me overthinking, was when you look at this lens, you can kind of see like the colors, like it has this kind of muted yellow as opposed to the Vespits, which are the like bigger brother or whatever that has more of like a highlighter yellow. Because to me, the DZOs have a little bit more contrast contrast than I think the Thypochs do. And so even just looking at the overall aesthetics of the lens, it gives like this vintage look with this kind of like muted color, this muted pop of yellow. And so I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here. Like I feel like that attention to detail, to me, I'm like, it seems like they're paying attention to like even the smallest things, which I always respect and admire when it comes to any kind of brand or company. The only thing that I would say when it comes to the characteristics of this lens that I'm still kind of trying to work on is I've used this on multiple projects, but I've also used this on a Sony FX3 as well as the Blackmagic Pixis. Now the Blackmagic Pixis has open gate while the Sony FX3 is full frame. These are full frame lenses. And so when you're using it on something like a Lumix that has open gate, or Ari that has open gate, or you know, a Blackmagic Pixis or 6K full frame that has open gate, you're going to run into some vignetting. Now it wasn't ideal for me because I shot a short film with these lenses, and when you kind of close down on your T-stop, you're going to see a little bit more vignette than you may like. Now, to some people, it may add to the characteristics of the lens, and to some people, you may not like it. And even going into Premiere and trying to get rid of the vignette, depending on where you stop down to, it can vignette a lot. And so I wasn't too much of a fan of that. I think certain times it may be cool, but that's just something to know if you do plan to shoot open gate a lot. It's not a character flaw. It just depends on, you know, what you like and if this is going to be a make or break for you. The next thing I want to get into is going to pretty much be the adaptability. I learned that the M mount is one of the most adaptable mounts that you can have. I don't have any camera that is strictly like in mount. I have a Lumix, I have the Pixis, I have the 6K full frame, I have the Sony FX30, I have the Sony FX3, I have a Nikon Z8. And so me not knowing anything about M mount, when they first sent it to me, I was like, one, the mount is small as freak. Again, I've used this on the Blackmagic Pixis as well as the Sony FX3. And for both of my rigs, they have been able to be as compact as possible because of these lenses. But when it comes to the M mount, the reason why it's super adaptable and able to stay compact is because of the flange distance, or flange distance, whichever way you guys want to say it. But it's so short that you can pretty much, one, use a smaller adapter to keep things compact, and it allows for the overall lens to be compact. Also, because before I even thought about these lenses, I was going to be turning all of my lenses, whichever cinema lenses that I bought, into PL mount. And so when you look at the DZO mount, which is right here, this is a PL mount. At first it was an E, and I switched it to a PL. One, again, the lens is already big in itself, but when you look at the flange distance, it's pretty big when you compare it to the M mount. So just that in itself, I'm like, okay. And so when you think about adapters, you're thinking like, this is already a heavy lens, and the adapter that I have is the Mofage adapter because of the NDs. Now, I'm sure you can find a way smaller adapter than this, but when you put these two together, this can get pretty hefty and pretty heavy. And so for me, it wasn't going to be ideal. Like, this is heavy, which is going to make my whole rig heavy. Think about starting with a Sony FX3 and already having to build it out with the things that you're going to need in cinema. But then not just that, you have this heavy lens and this heavy adapter that is also going on the front of your sensor. One, it could weigh it down. But two, it's just heavy. And you're holding your camera rig all day. It just wasn't ideal for me to be able to focus on trying to get a lens set like that, where it's going to be a full-on like adapter like this. And if I'm working here in LA and I'm doing like sit down interviews where I don't have to hold the camera all the time, this is fine. But anything else as a travel filmmaker, doing behind the scenes on feature films, is not ideal. Now, when you look at the mount on this lens and you look at this adapter, which is super tiny, like look how thin it is, the fact that this still keeps everything super small, when you compare that DZO, and I'll grab it again. When you compare the DZO, look how bigger this is. Let me just turn it. I'm trying to hold everything. Now compare this adapter with this lens to this lens and this adapter. It's already super heavy as I'm holding it. But like, look at the difference. It's such a huge different. Now, the biggest thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the mount itself and the adaptability is, one, this isn't like your normal adapter where it's like, well, I could just get a whole different adapter and use it and it'd be smaller. Yes, you can. But the reason why I really was interested in this adapter is because it's a dual locking adapter. So not only does it have kind of like that PL locking system where you turn the actual you turn it to lock, but it also has a positive lock as well. It's double locked in a sense to make sure there's no wiggle, there's no play. And the reason why that is important, and some people might not think that it is because I was on a set and my first AC was hooking up her follow focus. And the minute that she started calibrating it, the lens was moving. And the reason why is because I wasn't using this adapter with these lenses. When they first sent me this whole lens set, they sent me the adapter for my Blackmagic because I told them I was going to be wanting to use it on my Blackmagic more. And I bought this really cheap adapter off Amazon. And so that's pretty much my fault, just so I could use it on my Sony FX3. And so when we were using this, that's when we was getting all the wiggle and movement from the lens to the sensor. What's going on?
So basically, when I am reaching my close focus or infinity on the lens does jump a little bit. It's very minimal. This will be infinity and it's moving just like just a little bit. My hypothesis is that since we have an adapter onto the camera, that the lens is basically jumping on the adapter instead of the lens and the camera going straight onto each other. That's my hypothesis, but so yeah, I guess come with the lens support or some type of shitty rig. Maybe we might have to bongo tie the lens to the rod so that it doesn't like jump up so much, but yeah.
So the fact that you do have this adapter that can lock in place, double lock in place, and just if it was a freak accident like today when I was hooking everything up, my lens fell off of the adapter on my Sony FX3. So like having something like that where you have a positive lock to where you can like make sure that it's dual locked is just gonna help with any freak accident to where your lens might fall off of the adapter. And then just also like the fact that there's no room for play, no room for wiggle, no room for any kind of movement. And the cool thing is they just finished their whole adapter ecosystem, which is even better because that makes this way more adaptable to whatever camera that you're going to use. So now you can adapt it to, of course, you have your M mount, which is your native. You can adapt it to your E mount. You can adapt it to L mount, a RF mount. And now they officially have made it to adapt to a RE mount. So you can use it on your RE Alexas or your Sony Venices, from your cinema cameras, your high-end cinema cameras, all the way to like my Sony FX3 or my Sony FX30. Your Leicas, and just pretty much majority of the cameras that you see people using, this could be adapted to with this super small adapter. Overall, I really love these lenses. And the cool thing right now is they actually have a promotion going on. So these are cinema lenses, which means you cannot automatically focus with these lenses. Now, if you go and you get all the the things, and of course you may be able to, but naturally these are manual focus lenses. And so you have to be ready for that kind of workflow. And that includes having some kind of follow focus system, whether it's a manual one or automatic one. And so as a DP, I always have a first AC that can pull focus for me. And then they have their own system, or, when I was in the BVI, I actually wished that I had my own system, or you can even use that same system that is automatic to focus yourself. So let's just say it's something like this, where I'm shooting and I'm not that close to be able to focus, but I need to stay in place because this is where I'm going to be sitting. Now, I can actually just connect that follow focus to the lens and then look at my phone as a monitor and then just focus while I'm sitting until I see my peaking. And so stuff like that, where whether you're shooting indie or whether you're on a set and you have a first AC, you need a follow focus system. And so they're actually having a promotion where you get a free Tilta Nano II that comes when you buy this full lens set. Now you can only get it till August 20th. So if you're interested in these lenses and you do a little bit more research and you like what people are saying, definitely try to get it before August 20th because it is something that you need to have when you're working with manual lenses. Overall, out of 1 out of 5, I would say these are 4. And the only reason why I would say that these are 4 is because of that vignetting and the open gate. And again, that is only a preference for me because not everybody shoots open gate, nor does everybody have a camera that has open gate. So if you have an FX3, these might be a 5 low key to you. If you love the characteristics, you love the adaptability, you love everything that you heard thus far about this lens set. So a 4 is like top to me because 5 is perfect and nothing's perfect in this world. So I think a 4 is actually a really good thing. And these are on the top of my list as of now because as far as price, they're budget friendly for the full lens set, as far as adaptability, as far as characteristics, as far as the size, like every single thing was like top tier when it came to these lenses. So let me know your thoughts. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. There's a lot of videos out right now on YouTube that are talking about these lenses. And so I guarantee you, if you want to learn more, definitely check out these other videos. I just wanted to come with my own perspective of these lenses and not necessarily the technical aspect, but just me being able to truly use these lenses. What do I think about them? And as a travel DP and filmmaker, how do they work for my workflow? So if you do have any questions, leave them down below. Make sure that you like this video and of course, share with your friends. These lenses are something to talk about, and I think we've all were asleep when they first came out and now we're all awake. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed for this series. I love you all so much, and of course, I'll see you on the next video. Love you.